It's good to be with you, Chris, and good morning.
Ted Cruz has an idea on what to do with illegal aliens. I wanted to play some of this for you and get your reaction. Listen.
You know, you see rich Democrats basically saying to Texas and the rest of the country, oh, you silly people, you shouldn't worry about this. And they say this while they're at their fancy enclaves, while they're whining and dining. Well, I've introduced legislation today in the Senate. It's called the Stop the Surge Act, and it creates new ports of entry for these 2 million illegal immigrants. So instead of having 15,000 Haitians under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas, Del Rio just has 35,000 people, its population. That's half the city coming in one day in Del Rio. Well, what my bill does is it designates new ports of entry, like Palo Alto, California, like St. Helena, California, like Yountsville, California.
He gets into this whole list of left-wing enclaves, Colonel, and basically saying, it's about time they felt the joys of all the garbage they've been dishing out to the rest of us. What do you think about that idea?
Well, I'm a bit more serious than that. Now's not the time for any of these gimmicks or what have you. Now's the time for making sure that we put a deterrent force on our border and we turn people around. Now is the time to make sure that we realize that we're fighting against an insurgency on our border. The cartels are no different from the Taliban. We need to designate them as a transnational narco-criminal terrorist organization. We need to go after their funding. Now is the time for us to go after these non-governmental organizations that are putting illegal immigrants, and we just saw the flights that were landing in New York and Jacksonville, Florida, prior to that in Tennessee, and we need to revoke the licenses of these non-governmental organizations. Now it's the time to tax the remittances of illegal immigrants that are here in the state of Texas. So I understand the gist of what he's trying to say, but now's not the time for any, senatorial legislative gimmicks. Now's the time for us to stand up for the Constitution and protect the sovereignty of the state of Texas.
Well, let's talk about some of the seriousness of what you were alluding to. One of the issues, we took gunfire across the border at our agents. Of course, nobody even bothered to wake up Beijing Biden from his nap about that. And I'm being told by parents of our guardsmen that they have been instructed you will not return fire if you're fired upon. Those are their orders. What's your reaction to that?
That's a horrific order. That is the type of rule of engagement that was getting our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines killed in combat zones like Iraq and Afghanistan. And why would we have a rule of engagement like that even here? And so, again, one of the reasons why I'm running for governor is because I understand that this is an insurgency. This is a military operation. When you fire across an international boundary into a sovereign state, a sovereign nation, that's an act of war. And no one seems to understand that. No one seems to be taking that serious. And if we're going to just put our National Guardsmen down there to be targets for these transnational criminal terrorist organizations, the cartels, then we shouldn't put them down there. You're going to put our men and women in harm's way in uniform, then you give them the right rules of engagement to be able to protect themselves. You give them the right task and purpose, and you make sure that you're sending a message to the cartels that you're not going to be able to send your human trafficking across. Right now, Chris, I have to be honest, it is not just President Biden. We have a governor in Greg Abbott that is aiding and abetting human trafficking here in the state of Texas. Those planes that landed in New York, Florida, and previously Tennessee flew out of Texas. And so we're not doing anything to stop this. And now you're just letting the audience know that our rules of engagement are horrific, and we're allowing the cartels to fire upon our own Texas National Guard members.
The first tranche of 400,000 illegal alien wannabes are headed this way in a matter of days. I'm hearing rumors of the militia in Texas and other states responding down to the border, but I can't confirm it yet. But it looks like this horde is going to hit us, and they will be allowed to enter the United States illegally. They will leave Texas Latino communities devastated in their wake. Mm-hmm. It's kind of helpless feeling to sit back, and all we can do is watch as socialist Democrats bring such pain to Latino Texans.
No, you're absolutely right. And when you think about these border communities, they do feel abandoned. They feel abandoned, of course, by the federal government, which is unconstitutionally implemented an open borders policy. They feel abandoned by the state government here, which has turned their backs on them. And I can tell you that, yes, there are militia organizations that are standing up. There are also down in Kinney County, which is Brackettville, right next to Del Rio. They are looking for people to come down and deputize because they don't have any other recourse. They feel like they've been left out on an island, and they are standing there by themselves to try to stem this incredible horde that is coming their way. And I'm looking forward to heading down there within the next week or so to stand with them and be with them and help them to protect their lives, their liberty, and their property. And this is not about black, white, Hispanic, or whatever. This is about everyone here in Texas, our safety and security, and our sovereignty.
Yeah, and not only that, but also the gateway to the rest of the country. The rest of the country is
Absolutely.
depending on Texas. The former Republican chairman in the great state of Texas, Allen West, is our guest right now, folks, running for Texas governor. Let me pivot to a different subject that we have been just aghast at finding. We have a line to an Arlington ISD teacher. And Arlington ISD is asking, and we saw the video of this yesterday, asking teachers their opinion of Biden's job performance. When the teacher raised alarm bells about these clearly inappropriate questions being asked by GovEd, she was ushered into HR twice, intimidated, said she must resign or fired for daring to question these clearly inappropriate questions. Add that to the critical race theory that GovEd is shoving down our children's throat. Add to that a Department of Justice targeting parents who object to CRT and China virus mandates. And add to that a sexual assault of 2 little girls in Loudoun County, Virginia, because of that government-run school's permissive trans policies, a crime the school itself tried to cover up because they were covering for a transsexual. Can you tell me one reason why Texas parents should be denied parental school choice?
There is no reason why Texas parents should be denied school choice. The sad thing is that with the Republican governor, lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, Republican majorities in the State House and State Senate, we can't get school choice passed in the state of Texas. What does that tell you? That this is not just about blaming Democrats. It is about the fact that we have these lobbying groups that are lobbying for these independent school districts who are out of control, these superintendents. If you look at some of the paychecks of these superintendents, out of control. The reason why we couldn't get serious property tax reform, because, again, those lobbying groups are making sure that money is funneled into these independent school districts that are not educating our children. They are indoctrinating our children, coercing, intimidating, and threatening teachers that want to do the right things to teach our children. That's got to be stopped. And I tell you, as governor of Texas, we're going to cut off the pipeline of the money that goes to these ISDs, and we will get school choice passed once I become governor of Texas.
Last thing, the grassroots are calling for a 4th special session so the Texas Republicans can protect our medical choices in the same way that our race, our religion, our sexual orientation is protected against discrimination, and also to restore penalties for illegal voting that were inexplicably lowered in that Texas voting reform law. Now there's the lieutenant governor and other grassroots activists around the state and other lawmakers starting to call for a 4th special session. What do you think?
Well, there's one of those sayings from Albert Einstein: the pure definition of insanity is to continue to do the exact same things over and over, but to think you're going to get different results. I don't think that this legislature is serious about doing these things. I don't think that the governor is serious about doing these things. We still have child gender modification that is happening here in Texas, chemical and physical castration. So I would wish that we could have another special session and they would get things done. But as you saw with this whole transgender issue, they stopped at grade 12. They did not protect women in collegiate sports. So, yes, they need to come back. They need to finish the business. They need to address these legislative priorities of the Republican Party of Texas. Will they do it? I doubt that they will.
All right. Colonel West, where can folks discover what you're about and how to get involved with your campaign?
Absolutely. The West, the number 4Texas.com, west4Texas.com. I'm heading down to Georgetown to be at the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce speaking with the Republican women there, and then I'll be heading on down to the Alamo City Republican women this evening in San Antonio.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time, as always, here on the Salcedo Show.
My pleasure. Take care, Chris.